All right. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Friday. I wanted to do this. I haven't done an AMA for Schema in about 2 years. I did a few of them during COVID, and then obviously once COVID let up and everybody started working again, we just haven't done anything since. Um, the main reason I wanted to do it is just because the last year or so, I've really been seeing a lot of people promoting Schema, the different things they're doing with Schema, and it's for me, it's kind of exciting. I've been teaching Schema for 6 years. I started playing in it about 7 years ago, mainly just out of boredom. I'm a software developer, so when WordPress came along and all the great things that we can do with WordPress and the things that everybody does, it kind of bored me though. So I was looking for something to do as far as code, and I stumbled across this hotel, and I wanted to write back then. I was reverse engineering a bunch of on-page websites, so a bunch of websites that had good on page and, what were they doing different than everybody else? Why did Google like their content better than everybody else? And this one hotel I looked at, they had something from schema.org. It was just a little blurb, kind of the way Yoast is now. So maybe the WordPress or the URL, the description, the social medias, I think, that are attached to their. But I just thought it was interesting. So I went to schema.org, and just to see what it was. And I started reading it and started looking around. And one of the things that we had discovered back then was Google really started having a hard time crawling just basic web pages. Back in the old days of HTML, CSS, Google could really crawl anything and everything and understand it fairly well. Well, when open source and PHP and all these different programming languages came out, I really believe that the search engines really started to struggle with getting a crawl from top to bottom, whether it be dirty code or dirty scripts or scripts they didn't like or all the different things that these open source platforms started to do. Well, then again, I wanted to go back and say, okay, well, what would the search engines kind of looking for that they really aren't seeing anymore? They're still ranking websites. They're still everything's still normal. But the thing that I was trying to figure out was is that my little plumber in Dallas or my little roofing company in Phoenix, we were just kind of thrown in this huge pond. And back then we weren't doing much content. It's not like we're doing content today to where now we're doing blogs and all this other stuff. But we were just trying to get our content noticed, and we were trying to compete with the other competitors. So I stumbled across schema.org. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. There we go. This is me. So I stumbled across schema.org, and I just started looking around and just, what the hell is it? What does it mean? What is schema? And the interesting thing that got me, this website's been rebuilt, by the way, about 3 months ago. So the old website was kind of horrendous, but it still told the story. So it started, this is what I found, founded by Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Yandex. So this was kind of the thing that said, okay, well, maybe they thought back then that coding or ranking or the SERPs or whatever they were looking at is going to become so convoluted and so unorganized that we needed to come up with a code or a system that we could actually crawl and understand. So I dug into it deeper and deeper and deeper, started testing and started figuring out what all you can do with it. The interesting thing about schema is they kind of tell you what you can do with it. So, you started looking around. Today we're going to look at a heating, plumbing, cooling type of website that I did schema for, and then I'll show you how we kind of came about doing all this. So anyway, so the first thing I wanted to do is they were a plumbing company, plumbing and HVAC. So this is kind of the way I started this process. So I went to plumbing. Oh, the plumber's got a schema type. So that's cool. And I'll explain that here in a minute. So anyways, I started looking, I was like, gosh, dang, look at all of this stuff that we can put into code for a plumber. We can put in, an event if they do events, if they're, helping a charity, if they have a tent at the local home show or whatever. What certifications, their offer catalog, what services do they do? all these different things. And I was like, son of a gun, So here I am, Mr. Frickin' software developer guy. I was like, okay, well, let's play with this thing. Well, back then they had templates at the bottom here. Okay, so they would give you a template for microdata. They give you a template for JSON LD. They'd give you a template for, I think I can't remember the other one, Regex. Anyway, so they gave you templates to play with. So, and it was pretty small. So we started playing with templates. We started playing with, okay, so, we assumed at the beginning that we start writing stuff in there that they want first. That's just always the assumption with Google, with everything else, top to bottom. And so we look at, okay, they accept text, they accept, different, days are specific by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It tells you how to lay out all the different codes so you can get the best, you can get code that doesn't have any warnings or errors. It tells you to do the cache, the price range, it tells you to do, instead of a price range numerically, it tells you to do number of dollar signs. So all this stuff started formulating. We started testing this stuff 7 years ago. And we started, I had a bunch of websites to test this on. I had a bunch of websites in the construction industry that we used for PBNs, and they were just perfect websites to test on. And I had a bunch of websites in health and in beauty, which was another one of my niches. And so we just testing this stuff. What can we get away with, and what kind of impact it will have? The very first test we did was on a HVAC company, a plumbing company. Excuse me, it was on a lawyer. The very first test we did was on a lawyer. As a friend of mine, he contacted us. I asked him, I said, hey, I got this brand new thing. You've got a great website. You're doing all this good stuff. I'd like to take some of the inside pages and do some testing on it. I didn't want to go after their main service pages, but their pages like dog bite, bicycle accident, the ones that weren't real, not only real focused on, but they also weren't real big money type, services. And so we said, okay, no problem. So we went out and we started doing research. This is the key of why this schema does so much better than plugin schema, tool schema, all this other stuff. So if you go out and you do research, you always start with a brand. Okay, so for this example, like I said, I picked an AC plumbing company. It's actually a big one here in Phoenix, Parker and Sons. Okay, this isn't one of my clients, but they're a good example to look at because they're very powerful. They spend a bunch of money on everything. They're, partners and does a lot of advertising with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they're a very, very big company. So if you search Parker and Sons, you see all these different, results. You see 62,200,000 results. Okay. Some of those are pages, some of those are pictures, all the different things that Google collects. So anyways, what Schema wants, what you want Schema to do is you want Schema to bring in all these different components into one spot. Okay. Typically known as same as. Same as in my mind is the number one most important part of Schema. Is what same as does is it brings all those things together into one location. So you can go out and you can bring in the Yelp link. Here's another Yelp link. Obviously, the social medias are pretty common. Here's a Better Business Bureau link. Another BBB link. Home Advisor link, and you can just keep going on and on and on. 2, 3, 4, 5 pages in. You want to grab all the video links. You want to grab all the different interview links. You want to grab all the award links. You don't want all this stuff that you're collecting to be put in as same as. So when you look at your schema and you look at your brand first, it always starts with the brand. If you're not working on brand 99.9% of the time, start working on brand. So when you start putting all these things together and you start building out this portfolio, so to speak, for Google, Yahoo, Bing, and Yandex to give a better understanding of who this brand is, they know the brand. The brand's got 600 or 62 million results, but they don't know every aspect that you want them to know about the brand. Okay. So especially stuff that's super powerful, like interviews from a couple years ago or 3 years ago, those are powerful things that you can still monetize on today, but Google shoves them back on the second, third, or fourth page. Bring it back to the forefront, put it into the schema as same as, and now you're rocking. Okay. So when you look at their schema, this is their schema right now for parkerandsons.com. Okay. They combined, they nested HVAC, plumber, electrician, and home and construction business in one schema. But that's it. This is it. This is all there is. Okay. The schema that we did for our client This is their schema. Okay, so it all depends on what's the main schema type. The main schema type is the schema type that goes on what we call site wide. Okay, so site wide in the construction business, if you're not trapped, Terry's Construction or Terry's Electrician Company or Terry's Plumbing Company.com, that means you're trapped to a specific service. But if it's just terryconstruction.com or terryhomeservices.com, I'm not trapped. I can have all these different home services. So I want to pick the home and construction business schema as my site wide. Okay. This is just the start of it. Okay, so you pick the home and construction business as your site wide, and then you also have website schema. Okay, so website schema is, and typically we can nest these, but for this purpose and for the purpose of a lot of big schema projects that we do, we don't nest them because when you need to go back in and make updates or changes, it's easier to find them when they're not nested. When they're combined into one, you start doing a whole bunch of scrolling and stuff. So but the website schema, this is basically what we call the beginning of the entities. Okay. We've been doing entities in schema forever. For the past 6 years, is one of the first things that I learned is that schema is a way to tie in certain topics with other topics without having to mention on the front side of the content. So if you're writing about web design and in the schema for, whether it's entities or whether it's different parts of schema, CSS is part of that. HTML is part of that. Graphic design is part of that. All these different entities that relate to web design, we've always put in schema. Okay. Nowadays, some people are making sense to write about that stuff, which is exciting too, but I'm just saying that that's the idea of schema is to put all this stuff up there that Google or excuse me, the public does not even see. Public doesn't see schema. Google sees schema. Okay. You got to be very careful with keywords. Do not stuff these things. Okay. On a site wide schema, we talk about a lot of stuff. I could probably put 1,000 keywords on the site wide because they do gutter cleaning, they do, air duct cleaning, they do all these other things that typical home service companies like this do. But I don't want to convolute it. Okay. So my site wide schema, matter of fact, this is too much. The only reason it's too much right now is because I just want to show you there's some things I'm going to take off. Okay. So when I look at this stuff and I have I have tools that'll do this for me, which I'll show you here in a little bit, but it just gives us an idea for this topic, which is this brand. I put in the brand as the topic, and it gave me all this information about the brand. And you can use ChatGPT for this. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not too accurate. But you just want to look at the keywords. So stuff like, pipe. I saw pipe in here. Like pipe I'll take out. Sure, they know pipe, but pipe's not a search term unless you're talking broken pipes or pipe leak or something like that. So I really take out the super broad terms out to just make sure that I'm not kind of overstuffing my keywords. I don't want to take advantage of this. I don't want to piss off Google and say, "Oh, geez, you're just freaking shoving all these keywords at me." And no, I'm not, because I've got stuff below it that'll kind of bring it all together, so to speak. Okay. But I'll look at these things, ventilation, leak, those are pretty broad. So a lot of that stuff, clean water, well, of course you want clean water, so those things are pretty broad. Then you get into mentions and abouts. So same as mentions, abouts, and then there'll be a fourth one here in a little bit that I'll show you. Those are the four most important parts of schema. It's also the four things that no tool or plugin is very good at getting. Okay. Some of them are good at getting parts of it. Some of them are good at getting, doing best guess type stuff, close variances. I don't like close variances. I like to be as honest and truthful as I can because I'm using Google's machine IDs most of the time. So I want to make sure they're accurate machine IDs. So, and that's when you start bringing in all these different things together. So heating, ventilation, air conditioning. For same as, we get the Wikidata or Wikipedia, we get the Google Machine ID, and we get the Wikidata link. Okay, we get these for all of them. Okay, so this is a tool that Clint Butler and I have been using for 5 or 6 years, and it's now part of another bigger tool. But this tool gives us all kinds of stuff that we want to link that topical entity to the actual topic of the page. Okay, remember, Google ranks web pages, not websites. So your site-wide schema is just going to be part of a page schema that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Okay, so all the abouts and mentions, plumbing, air conditioning units, plumbing systems, air conditioner, indoor air quality. All this stuff is tying in what this brand does and is, and we want Google to have them known for. Okay. Abouts and mentions. Super simple, super easy, super powerful. Okay. Then you get into the home and construction business. Okay. This is about the brand itself as, again, a site-wide snapshot. Okay. So we're not going to be individually talking about Phoenix or, local business plumber in Las Vegas or anything else. We're just talking about site-wide right now. Ooh, site-wide right now. Hold on, if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. I'll keep checking it. And everybody on, by the way, is going to get the video and all this stuff. So, because I know I'm going through this shit with like a fire hose. So, anyways, now we did our brand research. We went to Google, we went to Bing. Typically, those are the only two we do. We say, show us all the results for this brand. Here's the brand name. And so we go out and we start gathering the data. Okay, so we want to go out and get all the citations. We want to go out and get all the awards. We want to go out and get all the different additional types that this brand would be known for. Okay, so we started looking at it. We go in, we get the long URL from Google for the map. My favorite URL. Okay, the reason why I like the long URL is because we can manipulate that plus string in the middle. Okay, but it gives you your lot length or your lot latitude and longitude. Excuse me. So it gives you everything in the long URL. So we use that a lot. We still use the CID. We very rarely use the short URL because the short URL can tend to change over time. So you might get a 404 error. So, but the long URL is always a good one to do. Okay, so I have a chat question. Is it a good strategy to cloak schema from normal users and only show it to crawlers? Um, this is the big thing. People have been stealing my schema forever. It sucks. There's really not much I can do with it. We have tested it. We have tested doing some cloaking with it. We have tested, not showing it all. We've had tested, I've even done some text or TXT file tests inside the root, calling it out like you would an image up in an Amazon bucket. Right now, we just show it. Because my philosophy is if somebody's going to put in all the work it takes to do this type of schema, so be it. I really truly believe that the reason why the schema was even invented in the first place was to organize the internet. So I think they saw it was going to become an issue. I know they didn't have any idea, thought about what it is today. But I also thought that, this was their idea of saying, hey, we're going to allow people to put all this stuff in here to make sure that we're putting A and A, B and B, C and C, D and D together and bringing it all into one spot. Some people call them entities, some people call them nodes, whatever. My whole thing is I want to give Google the best snapshot I can for my brand, for my services, for my locations. Okay, so good question. I mean, but play with it. You can test it. There's some people out there that test it a lot. Clint tests it a lot. Ted Kabidas does some testing with it. But yeah, just test it and see what you can, if you find out something about anything, let me know. But yeah, right now we just show it. We do minify it. So we make it a little bit harder to steal, which I'll show you that at the end. But, if they're going to steal it, they're going to steal it. So anyway, so yeah, we go down here and, all the additional types is just typically productology links and Wikipedia links and Wikidata links. Same as our citations, social media. It can be, news articles. It can be video links. It can be all the different things that are out there under those 62 million, whatever results. Okay. And don't bring in anything negative. Kind of be respectful. There are some negative shit out there, especially if you get into lawyers and some doctors and some other stuff when you're doing research on them. Just, bring all the good stuff in. If you want to keep a little note of all the bad stuff and maybe they don't even know about it and say, hey, Bob, there's all this bad shit out there about you too. So, but anyways, just kind of keep it clean. This is always a positive things for us. Additional properties, you can actually put a bunch of them here. I typically don't do much here because I've mentioned them in other spots below this, but you can put in, especially if you're a doctor, you WebMD, you can put in all these different super authoritative sites that they're probably a part of anyways. But like I said, it's just, as long as you're not getting errors and warnings, you really don't have to worry about it. Okay. Address is always super important, obviously. contact point. Area served is a whole different ballgame now. So Google struggles with where to place people. Yeah, if you're a local business in Dallas, I heard somebody say this on Facebook yesterday, that Google knows that you're a local business, you do these local services in this local place. Great. What else? It just stops. Okay. So when you're talking about areas served, you can do a bunch of stuff with this. So I always start out at the state level. If you ever watched my or taken my classes or watched me do a lot of talk about siloing, I silo from the state level down. I always have. And so those areas served, I can take advantage of, especially in this description. Okay. So I still use the Wikipedia ID. I still use the Google Machine ID, but now I get to put in a description to now relate that to this brand. Okay. Salterra Plumbing Company is located in the United States of America. We service people in the state of Arizona. All these different things you can put into this description. The description is where it really starts getting super powerful and you can really start tying it in. And this can happen on the state level and the city level. So we do this on local business. It's still a big play right now to put a lot of the local, area stuff at the bottom of our local pages. We've been testing just doing that in Schema, and they're picking it up a lot clearer and a lot better in Schema. So we started putting in the things to do and the Phoenix Zoo and Diamondback Stadium and all the stuff we would mention on the bottom of our local pages. We started putting it in, same as, or excuse me, knows about areas in Schema, and it's getting a much better result that way. So again, all right, got another question. Cool. Is it regarding the web page schema with those global keyword fields, what's a good strategy for a recipe website with 50,000 recipes? Awesome question. I would talk about the categories of the recipes, turkey recipes, brisket recipes, those type of things, keeping it, to where, because you're going to get more detailed into that as you get closer to that page, stuff. But as far as a site wide, I would probably just name your categories as far as your keywords. So that way Google's already got a good snapshot of what they're getting ready to see anyways. If that makes sense. Good question. Okay, so yep, pay attention to areas served. Because like I said, you can do a lot of stuff with it. Images, you can do a lot of stuff with. Video, you can do a lot of stuff with. Galleries, you can do a lot of stuff with. So it's always typically the video or the main image on for a site wide, especially your logo, of course. And then if you have your main, business image of your trucks or whatever, you can put that in there. It's really not a big deal, but whatever you put here is going to show up in the image carousel on Google pretty much immediately. That's one thing we have tested. When we first started looking at Schema, the first idea was how well will it get pages indexed? And at the end of this whole thing, I'm going to show you guys some stuff that we know through our testing. I'm shutting the video off, by the way, then because I don't show that on video. But I'll show you some ideas or some things that happen at the back when we look and see the different things about images, videos, indexing, all this type of stuff. Okay. Geo. Geo on the site wide is typically you want to do your main location, your corporate headquarters. If you have multiple locations, you can put them in there, but I would put them in there under the area served rather than having a whole separate geo area for each one. We've really found out, especially when you get down to the local business page that has that video on it, or excuse me, that embed on it, then Google really struggles with that understanding of you listed these 10 locations and now you're listing one location. So another reason why we just do local business by itself now, because we saw conflicts in that. So founder, now there's founder and brand, and we've been playing with both. This specific client, they actually sold their business. So, but they don't want the new brand mentioned. That's why we did founder schema for this. Founder schema and brand schema are pretty much the same thing. You can have the same field. So you could change this founder to brand and you would have the same thing. Okay. So, but just so you know, that's why we use it on this one. And you got to ask those type of questions when you're getting ready to do schema. So, because again, Schema is going to give a whole new snapshot to Google, Yahoo, and Bing, brand new. So if there's things that people don't want, especially when they start buying companies and everything else, a lot of these big conglomerates, don't want their name out there. They don't want to be associated with what the stuff, all the different things they own. So just ask those questions because you can introduce it pretty quick. Oh, another thing too, service area businesses. I put the address in schema. So even though it's an SAB, I put the address in schema. Okay. So I've done that forever because we always hopefully you have the address. You're just hiding it. But I put it in schema. Main reason is because it also helps with my citations and naps that I'm building. Because my citations also have the hidden address on it. So it ties the two and two together. So forgot to mention that up at the top. So, anyways, then you get into the knows about. Okay, knows about is the biggest thing that we've seen as far as moving the needle, as far as saying this web design page also knows about CSS, HTML, Bob's web design down the street, Steve's web design in the next city. All these different things of knows about we put in schema. So we'll put in the stuff that's definitely entity related, which you can use ChatGPT for that. ChatGPT is pretty good at doing semantics, LSI, and entities. If you've ever seen me talk about my chat stuff, you'd see that. But it's also good to put competitors in there. If you ever look at my SEO page, I mentioned Neil Patel. Sure, I know Neil. I know he's a competitor. He's a great resource. He's a great authority. Why wouldn't I mention him? Why wouldn't I mention his website? Why wouldn't I put into the description, that I've known Neil Patel for 6 years. I've been following him. Blah blah blah. Don't hide from this shit. Put it in there. Remember, the public doesn't see this. This is Google. Okay. Super powerful. Okay, so yeah, definitely. You can go crazy on those about. We typically do just because this is where we want Google to really understand that, yep, we do this. This is our page that we have it on. This is our page full of, testimonials or case studies. Here's our, machine ID that has to do with this project, whatever. You can do all kinds of stuff. All right. Offer catalogs. Offer catalogs are services. That's the easiest way to put it. Okay. So, whatever main services. Don't get, again, if you're this is one thing I see a lot of law firms, personal injury law firms, companies like this that do 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different main services, but they have 4 or 5 sub services of those main services. Just put the main services in here. Don't get crazy with it. So, question. Um, okay. Adding the knows about in schema in addition to having it at the bottom of the location pages or instead of having it viewable on the page. Again, it's really up to you. All we tested was what do we think Google can read and understand better. And I've got I've got clients, like a lot of people have clients. Why is that crap at the bottom? Even though it's hidden in accordions or whatever, why is it at the bottom? So we started testing this about a year ago, saying if I put those same things, top 5 things to do in Phoenix, or a little blurb about Phoenix, their history about Phoenix, and I put that all into schema, we are seeing that Google definitely picks it up and understands it better. Okay, so we just started removing it, and we're kind of looking at different variables of maybe we keep it there and maybe we add different stuff in schema, that maybe we didn't want to add there. So the knows about, or excuse me, the anything that we do at the bottom of location pages is always a test. We've tested, should I have 50% words of the service and then 50% words of the city? Should I have 80/20? Should I have 100 and put all that stuff in schema? So I can tell you right now that the more stuff we put in schema, the better stuff Google, at least Google, understands. Also, a little caveat: Bing and Yahoo are way behind the 8 ball. Okay, Bing reads schema, but I don't think they know how to utilize it yet. Because we'll see fluctuations. We test Bing a lot, especially on our test sites. And Bing will come in, and one day it'll be looking good. We might even get some, not they don't really have rich snippets per se, but we might get in an image carousel, or we might get in a different type of mentions carousel. I think they have mentions instead of asks. Anyways, but so it's different. So a lot of stuff that we do in schema is for Google, obviously. Um, Hope that answered your question. How small should we go or the area served? List of zip codes. Yeah, I typically go 10. And we definitely can put in zip codes. You can definitely put in neighborhoods. If you're doing a local, like Scottsdale, Scottsdale is really Scottsdale and North Scottsdale. And there's a lot of cities like that. So you can put neighborhoods that are in North Scottsdale. You can put, South Scottsdale doesn't really have neighborhoods per se, not like North Scottsdale does, but they have districts. You can mention school districts. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. So, newbie question. Okay, machine ID. Almost every single service, every single thing, so to speak, in Google has a machine ID. Okay, GBPs, your address has a machine ID. Um, Plumber has a machine ID. Web design has a machine ID. Lawyer has a machine ID. So the machine ID is Google's way of connecting that entity name to a numbering system that Google tends to use. If you ever look at Google search string, it's not much text. So if I go in here and I put in digital, I think this is my new map. Oops. Um, Yeah, I have lots of them. So okay, so when I come up and I bring in this one here, my one for the medical marketing company, I have a specific machine ID. Come on, Plibbler. Okay, there it is. This should pop up here in a second, hopefully. Ah, don't tell me it's not going to work. Anyways, Plibbler will show up. Plibbler will show up here. It's an extension for Chrome, one of the best extensions out there when it works. But it gives you all the stuff that you want to know. So, for instance, um, I can't believe it's not showing me. What an asshole. Show up now, Lebler. Anyways, that'll be your machine ID. And there's lots of ways to find your machine ID. Google is making it difficult, more difficult. So if I go web design, you used to be able to go to basically the backend page, view page source. And you used to be able to find it in this mess, but they've made it harder. Um, JP Jordan Pierce is really good at finding the machine ID. I use tools. And ChatGPT is really good at finding machine IDs. So, but that's what it is. A machine ID is a numbering system that's assigned by Google to identify a name or a topic. Um, Bing has a different entity ID system. It does, but it's different. I don't really have anything to go into it with it here. The one thing that we try to do with Bing is we try to find out, I mean, they're always about. I say it when we were flipping houses in Phoenix. We always checked on Vegas first because Vegas's house flipping trends were typically 6 months ahead of Phoenix. Kind of the same way with Google and Bing, except for right now, Bing is beating Google's butt in the AI realm. So, yes, they have an entity system. No, I don't have a plan to go out and get it. It'd be curious to ask ChatGPT that. I might do that after we get off here and see what they can come up with Bing stuff. So, we really write, especially schema around stuff for Google, obviously. If we did have to do some with Bing, we'd probably have to put them in there as additional properties or, under the URL strings, we'd have to have a comma, new URL string to include something like a Bing ID or something. But good question. I'm gonna check that out. We get off the horn here. So okay, so where was I at here? Okay, yep, here we go. So services, yep. So that's all it is. So the offer catalog is the services, and there are services on the broad sense. Okay. Now, when you start stacking schema, now here's the thing. This is the big thing that I really try to caution people on. Okay, because the amount of schema that we put into our systems is massive. Okay, so when you start adding in, typically you have your site wide, then you have a service schema, then you have a local business schema. Those are typically the three main ones. So when you have the site wide and then you have the service schema, Now you got to make sure that you're not confusing the instance very much anymore. Okay. Because the service schema is going to now give a different snapshot to those specific service pages. Okay. So for instance, this is the page for HVAC. So I've got home and construction business site wide. All my AC pages and heating pages will have HVAC service schema on them. Okay. They won't be on plumber. It won't be on air duct. It won't be on all these other services. Just on anything that has to do with AC, heating, and HVAC. Okay. The web page is the same thing. There's no big changes there, except for it's now more HVAC related, obviously. But the business now we're getting into the service business. Okay. So there's some services that create their own at ID or create their own entity through schema. Okay, so plumber has their own entity, HVAC has their own entity, web design does not, internet marketing does not, SEO does not. So those will be under just basically a service catalog or a service schema type. Okay, so instead of HVAC, I could change this to service, and then in this, I would do hashtags, or excuse me, like web design hashtag service to tie it in. Okay. But this one happened to have the HVAC. It also has to happen to have a plumber. So I'm using those as stack. Okay. So now this is all about HVAC. There's no plumbing mentions in here. I don't want anything. Again, I want to keep it super rigid around this service. Okay. Yep. That's her. Yep. Plepler. Thank you, Elizabeth. Local SEO tools. Anyway, so same type of layout. A lot of the same information goes in here. It's just different. Okay. So now we're getting down into the nitty gritty about that specific service. You got to think that way. Okay. We're no longer site wide. Okay. So we want to make sure same area served. The only thing different here is that we can put in, same as we can put in our HVAC page and stuff like that. We don't need to now because we're going to do that at the bottom, but it will work here too. Okay, so same area served. Then you get into, come on, knows about. Okay, so now we get into the knows about. This is tying into the entities, and we really want to tie in entities first, especially if they have a page. Okay, so central air conditioning. Okay, we happen to have a page. We have an air conditioning page. Perfect. Okay, so has all the different stuff, the URL, the same as the name. I can actually put a nice description here. Salterra specializes in central air conditioning units. Price ranges from $2 to $5 whatever. Okay. I get into the different identifiers again, same thing. So there's two identifiers, there's two machine IDs, which is awesome. Okay. So the more machine IDs you can get for the same topic is going to be great. It's just kind of Google's way of saying, well, air conditioning system and air conditioning are two different things, even though most people think they're the same. They're really not, because you have a system and then you're actually conditioning the air in Google's mind, I'm assuming. So, anyways, again, you go after everything that you have a page. Okay. So we have an air conditioning installation page. So now we have HVAC installation. So you kind of see where this is going as far as giving Google a super definitive snapshot about the pages themselves. Okay. Again, we're not talking local yet. We're not even down to that level yet. Right now, we just want Google to understand that we're a home and construction business and we have an HVAC company. Here's all the different pages this HVAC scheme is going to be on. Okay. And it just keeps going and going and going. Okay. So the only difference is when you're doing the research, just the URLs and the type of stuff change. Okay. I have a whole system that I talk about and teach that I'll get into later that really will make this make super sense. And when you start talking to it on a client level. Okay. I know there's two other caveats. This is the time I say this. One, schema will not fix a doomed site. If your site is already headed in the wrong direction, schema will not fix it. You have to fix what happened first, then let's use schema. Schema might flatten it out, but in my opinion, I think you're going to waste the power of schema if Google already has that site on some sort of system it didn't like, whether it be an algo update it didn't like or something. I don't think they really penalize too much anymore. I think they just kick your ass off the first page or do something to make you start dropping. Okay. But Schema is not going to fix that. Okay. Second thing is upsell this. Okay. If you have clients and you're going to go to them and say, hey, I've just learned about this new thing. We're basically going to build you a second web page or a second website within your website. But this website's going to be for search engines. This website's not going to be to help Mary decide to call you for Botox. This is so Google understands that this site for Botox should be shown to Mary. Two differences. Okay. So when you look at the different things that I have at the end, upsell the crap out of this. Okay. When Elizabeth and her team on our staff now do websites, we include schema. Okay. That's why our websites are a little bit more expensive than everybody else's. But we do this because of how important it is. Okay. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. People don't do this. You don't see this in Yoast schema. You don't see this in rank math. You don't see this in other tools out there that say schema doesn't work. Well, schema doesn't work because you're using the same schema that 6 million other freaking people are doing. Do better, be better. Okay. Kind of my little speech. Okay. So again, we're at the second level. You got site wide. Now we got a service. Now let's go into local. Okay. So local gets a little bit different. One thing we've learned about local is a lot of times, and most of the time, we get rid of the site wide. Okay. There's a specific reason we get rid of the site wide because now on a local side, we don't want to focus on the 15 different locations. Okay. We want to focus on one Phoenix, Tucson, whatever. Okay. So now the same thing, web page. This is out now local business. There would be service in here. Okay. So I didn't put the service in here right now just because this client specifically has a Phoenix or a city page that lists all his services. So he has a Phoenix page that has, a blurb about plumbing, a blurb about air conditioning, a blurb about heating, a blurb about air duct cleaning, as far as his silo, which is the silo that we built for him. So he's going to have multiple local business schemas for whatever service it's going to be. So this local business is specifically for the main Phoenix page. So he has a Phoenix air conditioning repair, Phoenix heating, Phoenix HVAC, different local business. Okay. Those local businesses will have on there this same type of service that whatever it is. Okay. Here's where you start getting a little bit different. This is another big reason why we stopped doing site wide on local business is when it comes to citations. Okay, so if we have a map for Phoenix. Phoenix has its own citations. I hope you're building citations. Okay, those citations for that specific map only go on the Phoenix page. Doesn't go on the site wide. It doesn't go on the Tucson page. Tucson has its own citations. Doesn't go on the Las Vegas page. It has its own citations. Okay. So remember, as far as siloing, keep it within that city. Don't leak. Don't mention Tucson. Don't mention all these other things. You want it to be specific to that city. Okay. And then ultimately city service. All right. So same type of thing. You go out and you look at all the different types of, other stuff. If I want any awards, this Phoenix location, does it have any awards? Does it have any interviews? Have I done any press releases? Did I build some authority stacks? All that stuff is for this Phoenix page. Okay. Obviously, it would have the Phoenix information here. It wouldn't have the corporate headquarters. You'd have a Phoenix image, Phoenix geo, and the founder we kept the same. Only the founders just, again, brand or founder, it's on every single schema type, but we chose founders because we took away the site wide. Let's bring a founder back in and just kind of show them that, yep, this is who founded it. Knows about, same thing. Here we get into again. So, and this is knows about Phoenix. You know about Bank One Ballpark. You know about the Phoenix Zoo. You know about, all these different things, but you're tying it in now locally. Okay, so Salterra Plumbing specializes in Phoenix plumbing systems. We understand the rocky soil, whatever. You put all that shit in the description. Google gives you room to do it. Freaking do it. Okay. Gives you all the different machine IDs for all these different things. Okay, so same thing, but now more on a local level. So you can kind of see where we're headed. So when you look at stacking, like, your site wide. This one happens to be home and construction business site wide with website schema. Your electrician page would have electrician schema with web page schema. Your plumber page would have plumber schema with web page schema. Then your local business has local business web page schema. Okay, so those are the kind of ways that you stack schema. Some people call it nesting, some people call it stacking. I think more nesting as combining schemas into one. We typically don't do that a lot, like I said at the beginning, because it takes so much time to find that schema if we need to make a change. Maybe they change their suite number, maybe they change their phone number or something. Okay, because remember, the snapshot they're going to get from schema is going to override the snapshot they're going to get from the web page. Okay, one of the questions I got asked, which I'll answer now, can you crash a web page with the wrong schema? Yes, I did it to my own site completely by accident. Took me 4 months to find it, and it was schema. My web design schema was on my SEO page. Totally effed it up. Google didn't even give a shit that that SEO page was 10 years old, ranked for 1,000 keywords, all this different stuff. As soon as they saw the web design schema, it took a different snapshot and it changed their mind. So yes, then when you implement this stuff, which I'll go into a little bit at the end, pay attention. Okay. I actually have one person that implements in my staff. I have two or three people that write and do the schema itself. I have one person that implements it. So that's how important it is ever since that goof up, so to speak. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Are we good? How far are we into this? Okay, barely an hour. Okay. Let me bring up some questions real quick before I get into more. Um, Let me see here. Okay. Oh, Paul. Oh, you guys got to pay attention to what Terry's going to say. I've taken his class twice. You're not going to forget it. Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay. How much impact does schema have on SEO rankings, or is it just a good to have the thing? Also, there are various types of schema. Hold on here. Sorry, cut it off. There you go. Also, are there various types of schema that Google likes? Yes. Okay. Um, Here's the thing about rankings. Okay. Will Google or will schema help you rank? I'm going to say yes, but with a big asterisk. Okay. Will it help you go from page 3 to page 1? Probably. What schema is more likely to do is if you have a web page that you have no schema on, and you throw that web page in a tool called, like SpyFu or Ahrefs or whatever, and you find the total number of keywords that page is ranking for. Okay. So the new client, I do a lot of white label schema. And the new client I took on last week, the one test page that we're really focusing on, they rank for 22 keywords. Okay. So it's an interesting project because I did another project for the same client 2 years before. And the variation of this keyword is so close that we already kind of know how many new keywords he's going to get. So when we did the same thing with him before, that one page now ranks for over 400 different keywords. Okay, so because it gives Google a better snapshot as far as known entities, known likenesses, known LSIs, if you want to call them, all the different things that you're relating to Google understanding that page gives you an opportunity to rank for many, many, many terms topically that you wouldn't have ranked to before. Okay, so we did a huge test on tankless hot water heaters. Okay, so tankless hot water heaters, we did a big test. This tankless hot water heater was ranking, or this page was, I don't know, it was ranking for like 12 keywords, pretty new page. We went out, we did some schema, we got it up to like 40 keywords, and then we did some content clusters and stuff. Anyways, through the whole process, we ended up getting almost about 80 new tankless hot water heater. So, oh, cool chats. All right, hold on here. How long does it take to see the benefits of schema? Okay, here's where we have another fun. Okay, so in my mind right now, and this is my big freaking argument with a lot of people, I will never say that you should never do backlinks. I think backlinks are great. I think backlinks are an obvious tool and a plan you should have in your SEO campaigns. But you're going to see you're going to see faster results with content. You're going to see faster results with content and or schema. Okay. One of the big reasons why is the biggest problem that we have right now with SEOs is indexing. Okay. Indexing is a problem. It was a problem before ChatGPT. Okay. There's some very smart people out there that track indexing on a daily basis. And when Google does come to your local little plumber site, and maybe every couple weeks, maybe every 3 weeks, how many milliseconds or seconds are they going to stay there? We do know that schema will increase that opportunity for that page because they understand it, they read it, they see it, and they rank it. Okay, I'll show you that completely at the end. But the biggest thing that we do is you will see definitely, again, depending on crawl, you can see stuff within the first month, whether you're on the right track or the wrong track. We've never seen schema be on the wrong track unless it's on a system or a website, excuse me, unless it's on a website that is not a very good website. I actually turn away probably 50% of the websites that people want me to do schema on because their website's not ready. Okay. Same reason I don't sell backlinks anymore. I sold backlinks for 3 or 4 years, made a lot of money selling backlinks. But I don't sell backlinks anymore because my good backlink could shine a spotlight on your shitty web page. And now all of a sudden, my backlink didn't work. Well, no, my backlink just showed Google you got 17 H1s on that page or some stupid crap like that. Okay. So, yes, that's what I love about doing schema tests, doing content tests, because we can see differences very, very quickly. It's taken 2 or 3 months to see something on the link building side. And that's because of the indexing side. Yeah, if you get a link from time.com or, oh, you get this DR97, yeah, whatever. But the whole idea is that you're going to see much better, you're going to see faster results, good or bad, with anything related to content. I believe schema, if every single site had this type of schema on their website, indexing wouldn't be an issue because Google wouldn't need to try to figure it out if they can understand it or not, because we already know they do, okay, through many tests. Okay. Okay. How would you do schema for an e-com site? Great question. Okay. First of all, you need to make sure your platform can take schema. One of the biggest problems, well, two biggest problems with this type of schema, if you work for an enterprise and try to get this type of schema improved from the IT department to put on their precious website, you're probably going to get denied. It's a lot of code that they don't understand. If you have a system that an ecom with BigCommerce, with Squarespace, probably anything out there, maybe Shopify is getting better at allowing this type of schema put in there through Tag Manager. But ecom, WooCommerce, yeah, you can kick ass in it. I always tell people the key to ecom schema is that site wide, which is typically organization schema site wide, and then brand schema. Okay, especially I have 5 affiliate sites, multiple brands, and my schema will actually help outrank my site to a brand site because Google understands it better. So yeah, brand and then products. Then you tie them all together. The products you get deeper than normal. Okay, one of my big frustrations with my ecom clients is putting more freaking content on the freaking product pages. They don't want to do it or whatever. We put it in schema. So you might have 1,000 words of a description on a product schema, then you might have 200 words on product description on the front side. Okay. It's also a great place to put reviews for product schema. Product schema and all the different variables. There's schema for in stock. There's schema for seasonal only. There's schema for all these different things for Google to sit there and say, yep, this where I need to send this person to buy this product. Okay. So I love ecom schema. I've got some great testimonials out there with some test projects that we've done with ecom and then my own affiliate sites. But yeah, it's always about the brand, and then the products fall under the brand. If it's one brand, then we need to have a conversation because you could probably capture that in the site wide and make your life a little bit easier. But first, like I said, first make sure the platform that you're using can take this type of schema. Okay, so you need to have access to every single page as far as the code to be able to install it. So good question. So when you say site-wide, looking at a diagram on a local page, would you have all three? Sorry, I gotta. chat GPT thing in my way of your content. Stupid thing. Looking at your diagram on a local page, would you have all three schemas on it, site-wide and service and local on the page, i.e. stacked on the top of each other? Yes, exactly right. So local business kind of takes away the site-wide, so to speak, because it has the same stuff in it. So even if you had site-wide and local business, you'd probably get some duplicate errors because Google only allows you certain spots and certain schemas for certain things. But yeah, you would basically have all three on one. Okay, so you'd have the site-wide, service, and city. Again, you can nest them all together so it's one schema, typically called local business, or you can keep them separate. Google doesn't care either way. I've tested this many, many, many times. The only thing the nested schema seems to be is cleaner if you're looking at it from a schema.org, test site or whatever. But good deal. At work, we put the recipe schema inside the web page main entity field. Should I suggest the recipe schema should detach on its own block? Recipe schema is super powerful because you can put in different ways to cook it. You can put in all these different things that you might not put on the front side, especially talking about maybe some authoritative chefs that's used it, something like that. The recipe schema really has a whole bunch of shit you can put in it. Then it's the biggest thing. The last three updates schema.org is done as far as new schemas. I think in October and November has all been around cooking and recipes. So reach out to me. I'd love to do a recipe thing with you. Just because there's a lot of stuff now we can put into that. But yeah, it should be on its own. If you have a recipe, chicken recipe, beef recipe, whatever, just because of the amount of information you can put in it that Google will allow us to put in. And again, it's probably stuff you don't want on the front side, especially when you talk about other people. I talk about other people all the time in schema, especially if they piss me off. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, local business cancels out that way. Perfect. Good deal. Glad that could help. All right, so here we go. How do you exclude or add service schema area business versus location specific service business? I just kind of covered that. The biggest thing that we do, I use what's called the header footer code manager plugin. Okay, it's the most lightweight plugin we've found for this type of stuff. Some SEO tools or SEO plugins like SEO Press Pro, which we use, they also will let you do this. I just like the flexibility of header footer code manager. I can take schema all the way down to the tag level. So like my site-wide schema, see if I can find it here. Probably not. It's probably going to take me a minute to find it. Oh, and site-wide and service schema, or site-wide and homepage are different. I'll explain that. See if I can find my site-wide schema real quick. There it is. Okay. So site-wide schema, this is what I like about header footer code manager. Okay. Even though it's site-wide, I exclude a bunch of pages. I don't want it on my local pages. I don't want it on some of my service pages. I don't want it on some of my cluster pages. So I can tell it even though I want it site-wide, I don't want it here. Okay. Great plan. Okay. All the schema goes in the head. If you put schema in the footer, you might as well just shoot yourself in the foot because you just defeated the whole freaking purpose of schema. Okay. Everything goes in the head. Showing all devices. I have schema. I've got over 300 different schemas on this site, mainly because I'm testing so much. I've got schema on specifically just mobile pages. I've got schema site-wide. I've got schema on desktop pages. So we do a lot of testing, especially with the way Google's indexing mobile first and then desktop. We do a lot of testing in, how and where we place our schema, just because we want to make sure that not only are we placing it to where Google will get the understanding we want it to get, but that it's compatible to that specific page. So, you can get into, like I said, all kinds of different stuff, when you get into placing it. But implementation, again, is so important because you got, like I said, there's a lot to it. My website's only like 500 pages. If you're on we've done schema projects with 10,000 products, and when you're doing projects that big, you have to stay organized. So header footer code manager is the tool that we've found to help us organize the best. So kind of gives you an idea. All right. Tools that we love. This tool here called Zista. This Sista will help you in immensely ways with schema. Okay. We used to use a program called Topical Relevance. Okay. Topical Relevance was kind of like a hidden, used to call it a lunchbox site because it had so much information in it. You just didn't want to tell anybody about it. I've kind of been teaching people about it for years, but that was bought up by this gentleman. I know him very well. Well, he installed it into here. Okay. So this system will do topical maps. I'm not here to sell a system. If you want a system, awesome. It's very cheap. The only thing I'm showing it for is how we use it with schema. Okay. So one of the things that we do is the Entity Explorer. Okay. So the Entity Explorer will do all kinds of stuff. Okay. So if I want to go in here and I'm going to do some schema on internet marketing. United States, English, hit search. Okay. So I'll take just a minute to run. But while this is running, so what this does is this is going to go out and gather all my entities. It's going to gather in my one word entities, my sentence entities, all the stuff around that term. It's going to do two purposes for me. One is going to give me a schema, a web page schema, like we've seen before with the keywords and the abouts and mentions. But it's also going to give me new ideas that I need to do for knows about entity searches. So this is where this schema goes completely different than every other schema out there. And when you're tying in stuff that Google knows about but hasn't tied it into your specific product, service, or location, you are just now handing Google all this information on a silver platter. Okay. It becomes really, really, really freaking cool. Okay. So let's see if he's done this yet. Completed. All right. So here's what we get. Okay. So it gives us some semantic keywords, the entity keywords. You can copy all these to a clipboard. You can put them into the writing tools and, come up with an, content plan, whatever you want to do. All kinds of things you can do. Phrases, single keywords, frequencies and relevance. And then here's the schema. So this is the schema that this system came up for this search term. Okay. So it went out. It found the Wikipedia link. It found the Google Machine ID, and it found the Wikidata link, all automatically. And if it does, this system set up to where if it doesn't have a Google Machine ID, it won't even bring it up. It's got to have a machine ID to make it an entity for that search term. Okay. Super cool tool. This tool here is one of the ones that, like I said, this is kind of what set my schema apart a long time ago. I helped a lot of this stuff with Clint Butler and everything to build these things out. And it's a phenomenal system. So take a look at it. A lot of people ask me, what tools I use, and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, let me go back to the questions. We got a few more. Let's see. So looking to refresh, how to stack. Yeah, covered stacking a little bit. Should the website schema only be on the home page? Okay, so homepage schema and site-wide schema. Can anybody tell me why the homepage schema is probably going to be different than the site-wide schema? Anybody? Oh, come
Well, duh, it's only on the homepage. It's not the whole site.
on.
Uh,
Citations. Okay, so most home pages have one map that links to the homepage. Call it the corporate headquarters, call it the main map, call it the only map. That one map has citations. That one homepage, that salterrasite.com, might have an IFTT network. It might have branded affiliates or branded authority stacks. All those links go in same as the homepage. They don't go on the site wide. Okay, again, you got to be very specific. Anything that points to the home page as far as a citation only goes on the homepage schema. Okay, it's very simple. You still do the site wide, then you just make another copy of that. You put all the homepage schemas, and then the site wide, you exclude the homepage, and now your homepage has a separate schema. Okay, this is super important, especially as you add GMB locations or if you have multiple GMB locations. Okay, again, when you get down to the local level, you want to, especially if you have a GBP location, you want to make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to make sure that Google knows 100%. There's no definitive wrong here about this map is this page. So if you have 300 citations and 50 stack links and 50 IFTT links on your site-wide organization schema or your site-wide home and construction business, you're going to be confusing the shit out of it when you get to the Phoenix page or you get to the Tucson page or wherever else you have more maps. Okay. So just be careful of that. All right. Okay. Best practices for real estate. Good question. How you doing, Nathan? Um, Real estate's different. Okay, so real estate, site wide for sure. They have a real estate office schema or real estate schema as far as like you would an office, a broker. Then they have real estate agent. Okay, so if you have a website that's an agent and the agent has his or her own website, you can use agent as your site wide, and then you talk all about the great things Mary does. Hopefully she's got some citations and some awards and some stuff out there about her that you can bring in for her. The thing you got to be careful about as far as schema with real estate is properties. If you have a property for sale and your sale process is 30 days, 60 days, whatever, you need to kind of make a judgment call. Is it worth taking the time to do schema for property listing? Is there a separate property listing schema that you can put all kinds of stuff in? But is it worthwhile doing that if this property is going to sell in 2 or 3 weeks? Most time it's the question is no. Now, if you have rental properties or if you are a property management company or you have an apartment complex, yes, now you can start doing the property schema because now you can put it in there that it is a rental or it's a commercial lease space. You can start putting all kinds of stuff in there. But I would not put it on a single individual single family home or whatever. If it's something that you're selling 20 a month, you know, I would just worry about the site wide. If you're a buyer or a seller, you can do those two types of service schemas. And then you can do local, of course. But as far as property listings, I probably wouldn't do it unless it's a long-term play, a lease system. Maybe it's a commercial property, maybe because they would maybe take longer to sell. You can loop in you link in the LoopNet links and all the different things to bring it together. But again, I think it's on a case by case basis. Commercial, I would say probably. Residential homes, probably not. Okay. Hope that answered your question, Nathan. Let me see. What are some advanced schema types used for e-commerce? I kind of touched a little bit about that. Heard you ranked a page with just schema. Actually, I ranked a whole website. So you're going to see that here in a minute after I turn off the recording. Let's see. What else? Topical relevance. Okay, yep. Topical relevance. That's a good one. Best way to implement schema. Okay, header for the code manager. Part of the schema is used to help a page rank. Like I said, it can be same as, it can be entities, whatever Google likes. FAQ schema is still valid, 100% yes. And as soon as Google came out and said they don't pay attention to FAQ schema, bullshit. Double, triple, quadruple down. Yes. Matter of fact, we not only have FAQ schema on every page, but we actually have FAQs on every page. So the one thing there, though, that we see very few warnings from Google Search Console with schema, but FAQ we do. If you have FAQ schema on that page, you have to have it on the page. So you can't have FAQ schema in schema and not show up publicly on the page. You have to have both. Okay. That's one of the biggest things that Google will ding you for. But yes, 100%. FAQs is kind of the secret spot that where we've been placing entities a lot. Okay, so we'll get specific questions around an entity. How does CSS play in today's web design? Okay, that's an entity question, one that Google will eat the shit out of. So we write that answer in the FAQ. Okay, so yes, all the time FAQs. Awesome strategy. Um, what are you using to add schema? That's the header footer code manager on WordPress. If it's not in WordPress, Google Tag Manager will do it. But the problem with Google Tag Manager, especially the sites that it takes it on, a lot of time when those platforms do updates, it breaks the Google Tag Manager connection. So Google Tag Manager is not something like I don't charge people. Well, I charge people for schema, but I don't take responsibility if they're installing it with tag managers just because of that breakage. It happens a lot. WordPress, man, the sky's the limit. We can do all kinds of stuff. So, WordPress site with U schema. Here's the thing. So I don't like any of the tools or plugins. And matter of fact, you have to get rid of that shit before you add in this type of schema because it will conflict. Um, Yo schema is junk. U schema gets a little bit better. The only schema tool that I tell people they should be using is Clint Butler's. But still, it doesn't go out and do the research. It's a good tool to put it all together, but it doesn't go out and do all the research. The research where the key is, okay? And that's why most people don't do this. Like I said, I've been teaching this for years. I've taught this at conferences. I've given away my templates, and I can still probably count 30 people that I know that do this type of schema. Which I understand. It takes work. Trust me. We've done projects. I'm this HVAC project, this plumber project, I'm on my third week and I'm just now building the schema. I'll be done next week, but it's a month project. I didn't work it on for a solid month, but it's probably close to 40 hours worth of research because this company is so old, so big, 17 locations, 9 states. I mean, this thing is massive. So there's a lot of stuff out there about it. Okay. So if you're just a local plumber, brand new business in Dallas, your schema is not going to take that long to do. But as you go out and build citations and get awards and all this other stuff, as you grow, that's the stuff that needs to be put inside the schema. So hope that understand makes sense. But yeah, just be careful of these schema tools. There's a lot of them out there. But again, look and see what they're producing. Compare it to what you think can also be installed in it, and if they can install it or not. A lot of this stuff, especially around knows about these entities, no tool ever thought about doing that. I've seen Simon Cornelius has a pretty good tool that'll go out and see some entities and stuff, but it still doesn't bring in all the stuff that we can get. That more stuff. It's all about more stuff. Okay. Like I said, I want to give Google the best snapshot I can humanly possible. Which brings up the next question is what's the least viable schema you can do to get effect? I love this question. This. Okay, so the more you can get understanding of your content for your web page with the search engines, the better results you're going to get, and you're going to get more results in other areas that you haven't even thought of. So you can do little bits and pieces of this. I've done some stuff with, try to one page schema. I've done some stuff with mentioning 3 knows abouts instead of 10. I've done all these different tests. And the unfortunate answer is the more I show it, the better results I get. As long as I'm not being stupid about it. Again, especially when you get into entities and you get some stupid stuff, like PayPal, and about credit cards, about invoicing. Of course I do. I don't want to put that in my schema. That has nothing to do with. I don't want to show up for PayPal. I want to show up for web design. I want to show up for SEO. I want to show up for internet marketing, for email campaigns. That's the stuff I want to show up for. That's the stuff I want Google to tie in. I don't want Google to tie in all this fluff shit that I really don't want to even freaking waste the time in. So even though my schemas are massive, they're very specific and to the point. There's not much fluff in them. And because it's this type of code, I truly believe Google crawls this stuff very fast because they designed it. It's not some PHP code or Python code or Ruby on Rails or some shit they've had to deal with. This is their code. They're hitting it. They're understanding it. They're giving us credit for it. That's the cool thing about it. So, let's see. Can you lower rank? Can you lower rankings? Sure. Yep. Yep. You can do all kind of shit with schema mistakes. Be careful. I think that's all those questions that were submitted. Ooh, chat. Cool. Is it worth it to stuff in a ton of keywords, or do you use them in FAQ and descriptions? Like I said, I really don't stuff. I take out ones that even are subtopic. Just because again, I don't want to put in there, and I've seen people send me their schema all the time, and they'll put in their web design Scottsdale, web design Tempe, web design Phoenix, web design Mesa, web design Gilbert. What the F, web design. You're already going to have location stuff down below, so don't sit there and just sit there. This is a keyword stuffing tool because, and you probably won't get an error or warning, but you're probably not going to get the effect that you thought out of it. Okay. So I want Google just to better understand this page. this topic, this entity, this thing that we're talking about, and who it's belonging for. Who's the designer here? Who's the one that I want to pick this stuff up that Google's going to show them? Okay. Rich snippets. I have fights with people all the time about rich snippets. Rich snippets are great until you lose traffic. Okay, so I've had people pay me to get them a rich snippet. I'll get you a rich snippet. But if you get 50% less clicks because of your rich snippet, that might be a problem. Okay. Plus, we don't really control what goes in the snippet. Okay. I have also been hired by somebody had a negative review image, an image of a negative review in their rich snippet. We got it removed, but I don't think it was anything that we did specifically. I think Google just found something better to put in that spot. And that might have came from what we showed Google. But so there's all kinds of things like that when you talk schema. I used to always go after the snippets. For my business, it doesn't work for me. For somebody like Marty Marion, who's got over 150 snippets from the schema that I've done, it's 50% of his traffic. That's freaking awesome. But it's not for me in my business. Okay. I don't really want a snippet for web design. I'd rather get a click, get a lead, get a call, get something. Okay. Um, for a service page, is it okay to include services that do not have a section on the page or service that is not on the page at all? Okay, good question. Awesome question. Um, it depends on your goals. Okay, so I've got a medical spa. I specialize in medical. Excuse me. And this one medical spa is very, very well known for a specific service. I mean, nationally. They even teach classes on this. They teach other med spas how to use this product. They came up with a second product. Okay. And so they wanted the second product added to the website. And I just said, well, let's wait a second here. Let me add that second product in schema. Okay. So, we built a page. It was a blank page. I just wanted the URL. And we did some stuff in schema to try to pre-introduce. My whole fear was that Google would see this second service, and they have multiple sites. This is one website, one service, but they had the second product that was in that same category, call it weight loss. I was afraid that this second service would start depreciating the first one that's really kicking ass. So we put it in schema, kind of pre-primed it, kind of saw what was going on with Google, put it up in the rankers to see if we were getting any kind of traction. Did the page index? Is Google giving us some sort of 100, 90, 80, whatever kind of keyword ranking? Um, and we found out yes, it did. Okay, so we went back now. It took about 45 days for this test. So we went back, we added some public side content to the blank page that was there. And that's how we kind of we still didn't put it in the main navigation. So we kind of put it on that page, still had the schema there, kind of just went slow. Anyway, after about 3 or 4 months, they started getting leads from that page. We also got them a GBP for that service. But then we put it in the main nav. So that was a test that we did just because I was so fearful of saying, well, you used to get 500 leads a month on this one product. Now you get 200 and nothing on this second product. Anyways, so it was a good test, but it worked. Do I recommend that? No. Okay, so there's another thing that goes along the same lines is putting local business on your local pages that don't have a map. What map do you use? Okay. That's a very simple question, a very simple answer. Use the map that's closest to that city, and then the URL you put in for that map is the driving direction URL from that city to your office or whatever you want to tie into your GBP. Okay, so, but again, don't be stupid about it. If your next closest city is 100 miles away, Google's not going to give you much there. Okay, so maybe you need to put a city machine ID, a city website with a machine ID or something. But local business on every local page. That's the rule. Okay. If you have a GBP on that page, that local business is specific to that GBP. If you don't, everything else is driving direction. Okay, as far as your URLs for your maps. Okay, any questions? Cool. All right. Now, all right. So if we're all good, almost been an hour and a half, I'm going to stop the recording that I'm going to show you guys some stuff. Oh, before I do that, I do have a course on this. I did not do this class for this course. Okay, so some people have seen this course. I do have a course at SEO University. Um, I've had this course for it took me about 3 years to get up the courage to build it, just because I didn't really want all this shit out there. But I'll put it in here before we go, or before I stop recording. And I do have a coupon code, $500 off. It's the biggest coupon code I had. Again, I don't want anybody thinking, oh, he just did an AMA to sell his course. No, believe me, if I wanted to sell this course, I'd promote it. I don't promote it very much just because, again, I don't think people will use it the way it needs to be. I think you guys will. All right, so let me get a coupon code for you. Quick. And there's the coupon code. That'll get you $500 off. But this schema course, it's right now it's 15 modules. I have it set up to where if you only want to go to one type of schema and just learn that one type, like ecom, you can do that. You don't have to go through everything. It's also got videos of me walking you through stuff. It also has my templates. In January, it'll be on my new templates. I updated my templates this year, and these new templates are just freaking crazy cool. There's a private Facebook page with me and everybody that's in it. And I'm doing two more modules in the next 2 weeks. I got one module I'm going to do for some new schema that we started to do for events for local businesses, which is pretty cool that you need to do. And then I do a new module for all the different software pieces that we use and how to use them for schema. So, anyways, go there, get the course. Hope you like it. Everyone's great. So, okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and then we will